It is becoming increasingly hard to take this team seriously as the true finals threat over any of those West teams with what they're capable of doing and their experience levels and how locked in they feel compared to Boston.
An epic game one between the Boston Celtics and the Philadelphia 76ers. The Sixers take game one on the road in Boston.
Unreal.
Behind an incredible performance by your guy, James Harden. This was turning back the clock to the, I don't even know what to say. That James Harden at that level, this was, everybody was saying Houston Harden. It was like 5 wide. He's got the ball. And whether it was driving to the front of the rim and finishing at the rim, it was the step back threes. Like, it was the whole arsenal from the MVP season. It was crazy.
How about the mid-range? Oh. He was pulling up from the mid-range in the first quarter more than he has ever since Oklahoma City.
Well, and here's the other thing, Kevin. Imagine that we're watching all of that take place, and James Harden shot 4 free throws in the entire game. He was 4 for 4 from the free throw line. The 76ers didn't go to the free throw line until there was about 5.5 minutes left in the third quarter. Just a really weird game. You know, you're watching it, and I think everybody had the same thought at halftime, which was what shot making we are watching. Nobody's going to the free throw line. There was only 2 free throws in the first half. Celtics took 2. The Celtics shot 74% from the field and 57% from 3. And they were up by 3 at halftime. I mean, that's unfathomable. Now, meanwhile, 76ers shot 55% and 58% from 3. But just the fact that you could shoot 74% for a half as a team, and you've got a 3-point lead, just speaks to how up and down this was and how nobody was getting any stops in this game. And I think they set a record for this season for 40 points in the paint in the first half, did the Celtics. Just a lot of crazy stuff, like not the typical playoff intensity that you would feel, certainly not the physicality that we are used to, especially maybe that we even expected, but the shot making in this game was just absurd, Kev.
Well, I mean, of course, from Harden, with his 45 scoring from every single level. Tatum as well, only 5 threes attempted, still goes off for 39. Jaylen Brown had himself a good game. Brogdon as well. Those guys, Tyrese Maxey too. I think you mentioned the intensity, Chris. It's 119, 115, maybe more high scoring than you'd expect there. I thought Paul Reed played a really strong game for Philadelphia with his opportunities out there. 13 rebounds, 4 offensive, flying around, stepping up for Joel Embiid. Those are the X factor performances that Philadelphia is going to need, assuming Embiid does come back for game 2. Even if he does, having Paul Reed come off the bench will provide the energetic, presence that he does. That's what Philadelphia is going to have moving forward in the series once Embiid does return. Were you surprised at all that last play call by Joe Mazzulla going to Marcus Smart to generate the shot instead of just going direct to Tatum or Brown?
I mean, surely that was not what was intended to happen. I can't believe that would be what's intended to happen. Something probably got. I mean, they'll ask about it after the game. Let me just comment real quick on your Paul Reed thing. Nothing bigger than knocking down those 4 free throws. I mean, game's on the line. Paul Reed's got to go. Called into action, and he's got to hit 4 free throws. It turned out to ice that game for Philadelphia. That was crazy. And then The other part was the fact that they got away with outplaying with the MVP of the league, the leading scorer in the league. It's all just so crazy. Like I am stunned at what we just watched, Kevin. I
Yeah, me
really
too.
am.
But
You know what I mean?
it's because of Harden though, and
Of
what he
course.
did. Like if Harden looked like he had his burst, his explosiveness, his creation. We've seen him hit step back threes, but tonight he was doing absolutely everything. If Harden is performing at this level, it changes the way in which that we were talking about this series with what could happen with or without Embiid, regardless of his condition. It changes absolutely everything if you're getting Harden at this level for what the Sixers could be at their peak.
Well, they were getting a lot of switches onto Horford, which is what he was trying to get. And you've got to wonder, you go back to the drawing board if you're Boston and your plan of attack is now we're playing against Houston Harden, because I know you mentioned we'll see on game 2. I don't know if you saw Harden's walk-off interview with Ali LaForce, but he said, I was going to take those shots tonight. We're missing 30 points. I was going to take those shots tonight and either way, and then just hope for the best, right? Or and he said, I'll have to do it again in game 2. And I think the sentiment is Joel Embiid's not going to be available for 2 games at least. And I also think that now I think we'd be assured that he's not going to play. Now that they got that one, that they stole home court, now that makes it a lot easier on Philadelphia to be able to set Joel Embiid for, if it's even in question, that they can give him another game, with their performance
Yeah,
in game
that's true.
1,
That's a good point. Yeah,
and that they've got that one in the kitty, they won that game.
Great point.
They don't have to bring him back.
Yeah, maybe you decide, you know what, we'll give him a couple more days.
Especially when it's every other day, you'd basically give him until Friday.
Yeah.
And now you get full force Embiid back for games 3 and 4 at your place. Just a lot of big performances. That first half, it was crazy because Harden was going off, but he had a running mate, and it is not who we would have expected. It's D'Anthony Melton.
Yeah.
They get to halftime. Tatum and Brown have 42 points on 17 of 21 from the field. Harden and Melton have 38 points on 15 of 23 from the field. And Harden and Melton are 8 of 10 from 3 combined at half. And Tatum and Brown are 6 of 7 from 3 at half. I mean, it's just, honestly, Kev, I'm just at a loss for words. I just did not expect this to play out the way that it did. And it was Houston Harden all the way down to the PJ Tucker high screens that he's coming around,
Sure.
It was like maybe a different group. Maybe it's George Niang and D'Anthony Melton and the other ones, hanging out. Just some weird stuff down the stretch from the Celtics too, Kev.
Part of this, though, isn't this a trend all year? Bill Simmons on his podcast all year long has been talking about how Joe Mazzulla, his flaws as a head coach, rotations, decisions, play calls, everything, all up and down the list, everything. We saw that in this game. We've seen the Celtics, play with their food throughout the season, particularly in that first round series against Atlanta, toying around. It felt like that again tonight in game 1, which again, that stems from coaching. It stems from leadership. Like this Celtics team, they very well might win the series. They might beat the Sixers. They might come back from down 1-0 and go to the Eastern Conference Finals against Miami or New York, and they might win that and go to the NBA Finals again. But it is becoming increasingly hard to take this team seriously as the true finals threat over any of those West teams with what they're capable of doing and their experience levels and how locked in they feel compared to Boston, with how sloppy they are, with some of their turnovers, with some of the ball handling, the decision making, the coaching. It's just a lot of foundational flaws that this Boston team has compared to some of the competition still remaining in the postseason.
I got to tell you, the last time we did a pod, we were talking about how, down the stretch, they just locked down on Atlanta. And then they just made winning play after winning play. It looked like a team that it was like, man, Tatum, Brown, Smart, Horford, these guys have just logged so many playoff minutes together. They've been in so many different situations together. And then when it's time to crank up and get it home, they can do it. And I actually thought after the up and under from Smart that I was like, oh, wow, they're about to do this again. After they got some offensive rebounds. And then it kind of felt like it started with the Maxey block charge call, and then it just fell apart. Andrew Callahan chronicled this. Celtics offense, the last 2:30, Smart turnover, Tatum 2 for 2 free throws, Brogdon turnover, Horford layup, Brogdon missed 3, Horford missed 3, Tatum flailing missed layup, Brogdon missed pull up, Tatum missed end of shot clock 3. I mean, it's just a mess. It's an absolute mess down the stretch. And then how about that? How about the throwing it to Maxey as the shot clock expires?
Oh, that was
what the F? Just sit on the ball.
Just awful. All of it was so bad at the end of the game. Even on that Brogdon turnover, Tatum passes the ball to him with 1.5 seconds left on the clock. Brogdon should have shot it right away, but Tatum put him in a tough spot. Like Tatum gets the hockey turnover, right? Like this hockey assist. He put Brogdon in a tough spot there, and you're right. Brogdon should have sat on the ball. And I just want to go back to that last play, Chris. With 4.6 left, you said maybe you don't think it was designed for Marcus Smart.
Oh, I'm not sure.
But Brogdon went right into him, though. It was a post-up for Smart on Harden, and he went straight to him. There was no other action on the floor. It was a Smart post-up, I felt. And then Smart drove, and Tatum gets called for the foul, and I just think it was a horrible play call.
It was a mess.
What I felt. All of it was a mess. Boston, if Embiid comes back and looks, all reports are, everything I've heard, everything you've read, feels like he's, struggling to move, struggling to run, struggling to jog. Worrisome there. But if you get Embiid even at 75% with Harden looking like 100%.
This Harden, and I don't know, look, some people are saying, oh, well, he's had the 9 days off, whatever. But, we've lived this. It's like he just doesn't have the same burst. He doesn't have this. He doesn't have that, right?
Sure look like it now.
Oh, my God. You put the ball back in his hands, and it was like, now I'm back home. You know what I mean? Like, now I'm running the show and, taking the shots, and it's like, space this thing out. And he was beating guys off the dribble. He was finishing above the rim. He was stepping back. It was just.
That was unbelievable.
Shocking. When is the last time we saw that Harden like that?
It was a remarkable performance by Harden. It was.
And obviously
one of his
best.
Better ones. Career best. Yeah.
It was his best playoff performance. Yeah. And I don't think that we would have ever thought that in 2023 we were going to see James Harden's best playoff performance he's ever had.
Just remarkable. Special.